An overview of the A-iPower SUA 2000i. 2000 starting watts, 1600 running watts. Remember, volts times amps equals watts, so you can estimate the maximum amount of draw off of it by figuring out what the amp draw is of your piece of equipment. Multiply that by 120. For instance, if you have a toaster that draws 5 amps, multiply that by 120, you get 600 watts. Here is the starting cord, and then the panel up front. This is your eco throttle switch. When you start it, you'll have it on the off position. That will start it at full throttle. And then once it starts, warms up for a brief period, go to eco throttle on. That will power down, throttle down the generator until you actually are pulling a load, and then the generator will throttle up to pull that load. Here is your 15 amp / 20 amp receptacle. That's what you will plug in a power strip or whatever you need so that you can plug in the rest of your items. Here's a 30 amp outlet. You would typically use this if you have 2 generators and you are paralleling the generators, and this would allow you to draw the maximum amount out of the 2 generators that are paralleled. If you're not running 2 generators, you probably won't use this. A circuit breaker, if that pops, figure out why it pops for one, and then press it back in. A 12 volt for cigarette lighter, anything that's going to run off of a cigarette lighter. Here is your start, run, and choke switch. When you start it, put it on choke, let it start up, and then come back right back to run. And then to shut it off, just go to off. This is a grounding nut. You can connect just any sort of wire to that and ground it into the ground. There are YouTube videos on how to do that. I will not go over that. The fuel cap. It holds 1.1 gallons of fuel. There is a filter screen in there to filter out anything that might be in the fuel can. Pour it right through there. It takes fuel kind of slowly, so make sure you're going in there slowly. As you fuel up, you can read the fuel gauge. Sort of hard to read over time, but as it is all the way up, now that's showing full. You can also watch it in there. It'll come up to the bottom of that screen in there when it is full. On the cap, there is an on-off. That is a vent. I have it on off. You want to make sure it's on. That's going to open that vent so it allows air into the fuel tank. Spark plug access, if you need to change the spark plug, it's down there. I have not changed my spark plug. And then here is the panel that we will pull off so that we can drain the carburetor when it is in storage, and also to change the oil. And then on the back, the exhaust. Make sure that is pointing out of your garage, out of everywhere, out into the open, so that you don't kill yourself with carbon monoxide. Here are the accessories that came with the generator. I'll start off over here. This is a parallel cable. If you have 2 generators, you will not use that if you don't. Here is a 12 volt accessory. You can plug that into that 12 volt port and then charge a battery with these 2 alligator clips. This is an RV plug adapter. This would plug into your 30 amp, and then that would be for an RV plug. If you don't have that, you won't use it. Here is a very useful piece of equipment for filling up the oil. Don't lose that. And then screwdriver for pulling off that access panel, and then the spark plug wrench. So this is a piece right here. It's going to come, and you're going to put this down through the spark plug port, insert there, and then you'll be able to take the spark plug out and replace if needed. I'm going to go over how I start the generator. First of all, you want to make sure that the fuel vent cap is on, that the vent shows on. You want to make sure that you have the eco throttle off. We're going to go to start/choke, and then I pull it through just a couple times slowly to sort of prime it. And then we'll go ahead and give it one good pull to start. Maybe two. And then go ahead and turn it to run. Then we can turn the echo throttle off. And we'll power down. From here, we get our accessories plugged into a power strip. Plug that in, and turn on the power strip. Right now it's running an outdoor fan, and it doesn't draw much of anything, or else the engine speed would have increased. We'll shut it off. We'll turn off any accessories. Let it run at a lower load for a little bit. We can unplug this and then go to off. Now we'll go over some of the internals. You just need to unscrew these. Pull the face off. It just needs to pop, don't worry about it, it just sort of pops off. And you'll see that it's actually kind of a little bit funny. Don't worry, you're not going to hurt it. These little pins right here hold it in. So when you put it back on, you want to make sure you pop those pins back in. Here's the oil fill. Right in here is the carburetor, and this is the little drain tube for the carburetor. So when you want to store the generator, we want to take the cap off, siphon the fuel out into a jug, into your gas jug. Hopefully you know how to do that. You just put the siphon tube in there, and if you have a siphon that kind of has a pump on it, it's much easier. And then from there, once it's all siphoned out, there is a drain screw on the carburetor right in there. And when you put your screwdriver on there and loosen that up, fuel is going to drain from the bowl of the carburetor. The bowl is right here. It's really hard to see, but the bowl is right there, and that will completely drain the carburetor of fuel, and that will keep the engine dry and won't gum the carburetor up, so that next time you go to use it, you should be able to start it no problem. Now, one other tip, if this, hopefully that, I'm not sure you can see that. If this screw right here is not right there, so where you can get your screwdriver on it, what you want to do before you fill this thing up with fuel, there is a bolt right there on the bottom of the carburetor bowl. You can loosen that up slightly, and then there's the bowl right there. You can turn that bowl, just spin it so that that screw here is easily accessible with your Phillips head screwdriver. And then of course make sure you tighten that bolt back up, but that's going to allow you to easily drain the carburetor. All right, now I'm going to show you how to change the oil. The manual says to let the generator run for just a little bit to warm it up. I wouldn't get it too hot, just run it for just a little bit to let it warm up so that the oil gets a little bit warm and will drain out easier. Here's the oil drain. We need something to drain it into. We need either SAE 10W30 or 10W40 oil, and it says, the manual says 0.42 quarts, which is 13.44 ounces. And usually the quart bottles have a little bit of a sight gauge here, so you can tell when you're getting right about to 13.44 exactly ounces. Paper towels are always handy. Have it up on something that's actually nice to have another person. We'll see how this goes by myself. Bring it over to the edge of whatever you have it on. And do the dipstick. And set that down over here. And then we're just going to tilt it. See, there you go. And let the oil drain out. Now that we've drained the oil, we'll go ahead and fill it back up. Take the funnel, put it in there, and it might not take a full 13.4 because it might not have all drained out, but that's okay. We got as much as we could. Now to check the oil, make sure that the generator is perfectly level. I think I've got about 13 in there. I'll take this out. Put the dipstick in. There's a low and a high mark on it. Really hard to see when you put fresh oil in there. I'll try that again. Right in between the low and the high there. And put it back in. And then snug it down. Not too tight though. You don't want to, it's a plastic dipstick, you don't want to break it. Just snug it down just moderately tight. And then we're good there. We'll put the cowling back on. You got to hook these little things down in the bottom first. Alright, then those pins are going to pop back in. You're going to see there's a couple here. There's 4. And then one at the top. So pop, 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 pop. And then we can pull this up over the top here. Pop this back in like that. And then go ahead and screw your screws back in, and then you're done. Now, a couple things about the LED indicators on here. You have the output indicator that's going to go green once the just as soon as it starts up, and you've got good power and it is available to put out an output. I've had the overload alarm go off several times. It doesn't really alarm, it's just gonna stop powering things. So if you put too much in there, you try to run a hair dryer or microwave and something else, and it overloads, it's just gonna not, the generator is gonna continue to run, but that's gonna turn off that output indicator, and the overload alarm light will turn on, turn red, and it'll go into echo throttle mode. It will slow down. So at that point, all you need to do is turn it off and then reduce whatever power you're using, whether it be the microwave or whatever is drawing too much power, and then start it back up again, and it will run your accessories. The low oil alert, if your oil gets low, that light will go on. If your oil goes too low, your generator is going to shut off. So if your generator shuts off for some reason that you don't know, go ahead and check the oil. The other thing about oil is the manual specifies to change it after 20 hours of use at first. That's kind of the break-in period. And then afterwards, either every 6 months or 100 hours of use.